Good evening. It is June 22nd, 2023. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Argyle ISD Board of Trustees. The time is 6:03 p.m. We will determine if a quorum is present.
Leanna McDade, present.
Josh Western, present.
Richie Effenbaugh, present.
Leanne Arthel, present.
Matt Slayton, present.
Craig Hawksworth, present.
And I, Sam Slayton, present. We do have a quorum established. The time is still 6:03 p.m. We will adjourn to executive session. All right, good evening. The time is 7 p.m. We have returned from executive session. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, this time we'll have a moment of silence. All right, thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action items discussed in closed session.
So moved.
All right, Dr. McDade has a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Matthew Slayton with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, we have a lot of special recognition tonight. So,
We do.
we do. We have a lot of special recognition tonight.
Okay, we're starting with the academic team.
The top point getter academic teams.
I think we're all trickling in.
If we could bring in the state academic team. This is our first place 5A University Interscholastic League state academic team.
Well, thank you guys so much for that warm reception. I want to say that about half of us are missing, coaches included, because it is summer, so they're all over the United States right now. But we did win the 5A Academic State Championship this year for our first year in 5A. We were super excited. We won it with 269 points. We took home points in accounting, calculator applications, computer applications, congressional debate, CX debate, documentary film, digital animation film, editorial writing, literary criticism, persuasive speaking, science, social studies, traditional animation, theatrical design, and then we were the first place team in accounting and literary criticism. And with those two teams, not only were we the first place in 5A, we had the highest scores on those two teams in the entire state. So huge congratulations to those two teams. But we had a great year in academics, and we are super excited to be here, and thank you guys for celebrating these kids' hard work.
Thank you.
I'm going to be calling names, and if you'll come up as I call your name. I have a certificate to present to our UIL coordinator, Mrs. Reynolds, for the Argyle High School UIL academics team for their class 5A state championship. Ashley Henderson.
I don't think she's here. She was going to try to make it for me.
Okay, she's first place theater team, so I'll just put it right here. I'll put the ones down here, right here. Samaya Thomas for second place social studies. Over here. Trevor Patton for second place current events team. Pierce Love for second place calculator applications. Caroline Deckenbaum for second place calculator applications. Kate Best for literary criticism state champion.
She also had the highest score in the entire state.
Ellie Richardson, fourth place spelling team. Ashan Bagdad for fourth place spelling team. Kay Dalton for fourth place spelling team. Megan Nesselman for first place accounting team and second place computer applications. Punit Nusavato for second place current events and issues team. Sriman Kalakura for second place persuasive speaking. Ronald Wilson for accounting state champion.
He also had the highest score in the entire state.
Fifth place UIL state theatrical design team. David Schrader for fifth place UIL state theatrical design team. Jacqueline Myers for fifth place UIL state theatrical design team.
He's not.
Okay. And Molly Marshall for fifth place UIL state. So I'll give these to Mrs. Reynolds. Thank you. This is Caleb Leonard.
Sorry, this is summer. Some people got left off the list.
Yeah, Nathan Garner, fourth place science team.
She's come up one by one. I've introduced to Jessica Reynolds earlier. Everything that you coach along today.
I coach debate, all of the events under that umbrella, and then I help with theatrical design and one act.
Carpenter.
UIL one act play and theatrical design. You guys are any good UIL science? Let's be specific. Biology.
I do calculator.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Hadley. I coach spelling and vocab and the essay contest.
Let 'em go.
History contest and the Latino history.
Hello, I'm Matthew Whitty. I coach the current issues and events team and social studies.
Asher Rahman.
Hi, Rashid Rahman. I coach accounting, computer application, and computer science.
Three lanes here. So all the people in the back are
Yeah, we stand up. We're gonna go up.
I love the remote.
Once again, let's hear it for the 5A State Championship UIL academic team. They have 17 of those trophies for state championships in that trophy case right now. 17 for the UIL team, the academic team. Next, we're going to be talking about our Lady Eagle golf team. If you could come on up, Coach Moses. We're very proud of you and your 7th place finish at the 5A tournament. Do you want to talk about your season here?
Ladies, would y'all like to speak? So listen, hey, it's such an honor to be here to brag on these ladies. Golly, there's gonna be a year I don't cry. I don't care. This is not the year. I promised these ladies I'd take 30 seconds. So I'll call out their names in just a second, but listen, to brag on these girls, listen, I'll get composed in just a second. Listen, we almost graduated everybody from last year. We graduated, 3? So I've got 3 new faces. I've got 2 returners off of a team from to try to defend a state championship, 4A state championship, moving up to 5A. These ladies continue to just impress everybody all year long. They never give up. They put up with me all year long. It wasn't always the easiest of times this year. I mean, we dealt with probably the worst weather I've ever experienced with in a high school golf coach. I mean, we played in torrential rain. The spring, I don't think it ever got above 36 degrees the whole time we played, but they just kept chipping away. They just kept winning event after event. After event, I got to quit looking at the sign. Listen, I'm super proud of all of them. I do have one on the team, which I think is probably not helping this a whole lot, that sleeps at my house. So I'm probably a little bit more emotional than normal for that. But listen, incredible job by these ladies. They are your... Since I've been here, we've won the district championship every year. I know we've won more in the past. I'm sorry, I can't explain those to you. We've never won a regional championship, even though we've won 2 state championships. But this is your Region 1 5A region champions. It's the first time the girls' golf program have ever done that. And then our goal was to finish, just so everybody knows, the individual sports, it's incredibly difficult to participate or to bring points home from for the Lone Star Cup. And we're so proud of our academics team that brought home the gold, and our baseball team and our softball team and all the sports and our band and everybody that participated. Our goal moving up to 5A was to bring home points. And again, it's kind of silly that I'm bringing up a disappointment, but I mean, we have to finish in the top 5 to bring home points. And that was our goal. Incredible year. If I could, may I call the ladies up, or would you like to? All right. First, we have I'm just going to talk about what they were this year and as their competition. We have junior, Miss Kate Rendon. Sophomore, Miss Ryan Przinski. We have sophomore, Miss Anna Edwards. And freshman, Kobe Moses. Missing tonight, we have a senior that's actually flying back from South Carolina. She's visiting her family out there. Senior, Miss Madison Wirt.
I want to present you, Coach Moses, with this certificate for the Argyle High School Lady Eagle golf team for their state tournament. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Step forward just a little bit so the board can get it.
Y'all let her run in the middle. Let her run in the middle.
There.
In the middle. He's in. Come on this side.
Very far. There we go. Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you. Don't do that.
All right. I'm Justin Ham. I was fortunate enough to have two outstanding pole vaulters this year with Eli Barnes, who is actually being a counselor at church camp right now, and then Gator Young. Eli was a senior this year. This is his second time at state. He made it last year as a junior, and then again as a senior, finishing third place. He is going to go to Harding University to continue pole vaulting. And then we have Gator, who won the state championship in pole vault for the class of 5A this year. Gator. I've been super fortunate. They make me look good at my job, but actually, those two, they put in so much work every single morning. They're there at the school, working out on their own, running on their own, doing all of those things to make themselves better day in and day out. And quite honestly, it's just a tribute to their hard work, and it all paid off in the end. We're fortunate enough, we're going to have Gator 2 more years, so that'll be great. He's going to have some more coaching responsibilities as we continue to move forward and have a good crop of new incoming freshmen coming up that he can hopefully mentor and just kind of help teach them what he's learned in his experiences, like his regional meet freshman year where he didn't do as well as he wanted to. And then he goes in PRs and jumps 16.5 this year at regional. So big difference in 1 year time and just kind of that mentality. So Gator Young.
State champion. Very proud of you. This is yours.
Stand right here in the center for us.
Congratulations. Next, we want to recognize our finance department. We have received the Transparency Stars recognition, so if we could get all of the finance department to come up. This is a huge award. The Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts Transparency Stars program recognizes local governments making important strides toward greater transparency. In April of 2023, Argyle AISD received state recognition from the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts for going above and beyond in its fiscal transparency efforts. The awarded star in the area of traditional finances recognizes outstanding efforts in making important financial information accessible online using easily understood graphics, visualizations, and downloadable data. This initial award allows us to further pursue additional recognition for transparency in areas such as debt obligations. So huge congratulations to our finance department. Okay, next, Communications Department. We are very, very proud of our Communications Department. It's a 3-person department and the recognition that they received this year. The Argyle ISD Communications Department was recognized earlier this year by the Texas School Public Relations Association at the annual state conference held this year in Fort Worth. The Communications Department won 8 STAR Awards, and these awards recognize the state's best entries of work in a wide range of categories. Argyle also won the Best in Category Award for its commemorative celebration graphic for Argyle High School winning the Lone Star Cup. In all, Argyle won 1 Best of Category Award, 5 Gold Star Awards, and 2 Silver Star Awards. The Communications Department was honored in categories for its website, graphics, videos, and photography. In the past 2 years, the department has won a total of 8 Gold Stars and 4 Silver Stars. Congratulations to the Communications Department team of Rick Herron, Laura Trubenbach, and Christopher Saylor. We're very proud of you.
Rick, are you recruiting Liz?
Yeah, I need a photographer. It's a finance recognition for the photographer.
Okay, congratulations. Okay, one more thing. Where's that letter? From David Stevens. Pull up my letter. Okay, this is a letter that David Stevens wrote to me and to the district. You may know that the UIL meet had to be moved this year because of conflicts on the University of Texas Austin campus. And when they moved the meet, it caused us to have to move graduation. So I was on the phone with him a lot about this, but there really wasn't anything he could do about it. But like our valedictorian and our salutatorian and several of our top 10 were on those academic teams, so we just had to move graduation. But then, after all my conversations with him, Jessica told him that she wanted to bring their trophy home. Well, they don't really let those trophies go home with people. They ship those trophies, or they personally deliver them and present them at a banquet or something. But she talked him into bringing that trophy home so that we could take pictures with it right after they got back. And so he wrote me this letter, and I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but he makes several points in here about how he feels like that people who have had to compete against Argyle have upped their game because of us. He said, your leadership has impacted countless students around the state, through those students and teachers in Argyle, to those who have tried their best to reach or surpass their strongest competition they would face from Argyle. The entire state is better because of your leadership. And it goes on, but I wanted to read that part about how Argyle has caused other districts to become more competitive also. So I appreciated David sending that to the district and to me, so thank you, David.
And for letting us bring the trophy home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well
because we
earned.
carried it around and took pictures of it before we put it in the case, yes.
Right.
We did
Okay.
get to bring it home, yes.
All right. We're going to go to public forum now. We have 3 people signed up. So we will start with Acela Spiegelberg. All right. Good evening.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. I'll go over housekeeping again,
No problem.
just so we all know. So, all right, you got 5 minutes tonight. So the time is yours whenever you begin. Again, the board will not have any questions or any responses. And this is different for me, so this is why I want to share it tonight. Mr. Matthew Slayton will let you know when there's a minute left.
Okay.
That's new. That was hard for me. Yeah, you can do it. So, all right. Floor is yours.
So, in March, I filed an ORR, March 2nd exactly, which I did not receive until 3 days after the election. Now, I have released some of those emails, which I know has caused a little bit of a stir, but in my opinion, there wouldn't be a stir if these conversations were being had in public. The fact that I can receive those emails means that that information is public knowledge. Now, when you move further from that, there are lots of things that this district does really well. And there are a couple of things that this district does that create more questions than answers. And my opinion is that a lot of that happens because we do not have geographic representation for large sections of this district. It used to be a feeling that as trustees, you weren't looking out for the community as much as maybe you do the part of the community that you are in. And that would be resolved if these conversations were had in the public eye. Right now, we have a situation where Argyle West and Argyle South are over capacity. Now, there is a question about what capacity means, whether the number is correct or not. But Hilltop, where every single one of you is zoned to, has been under capacity this past year, and right now it looks like it probably will be at least for the beginning of next year. There's a question of why and how you draw your zoning. There is a question of why there is no one in that room from the other districts, at least to listen in. I sat in on a building meeting last week, and I thought I sent a very respectful letter saying, hey, I had some questions about this and this, or some comments about this or this. And not one of you within a week could say, hey, we saw your comments, we'll take that into account. I don't need a big thing, but it's nice to at least be acknowledged. I was the only person in that room that will have a child at ES4. So the fact that no one from Harvest, from Canyon Falls, from the Ridge, currently have someone speaking up for them and getting responses, and we're not seeing any of this open debate in this room. And I have seen it in the emails released in that ORR, is really concerning. Those areas that I mentioned are highly diverse. They have, they're people that live in high density communities. They have a very different experience from each and every single one of you. And yet right now, none of us have a voice. And the fact that I had to go and get an ORR to find that information and then have people attacking me online for releasing the information and asking questions about it is also concerning, because that's my right, and that information should be public. So I know that some of you might not be very happy with the tactics that I've used, but I have spent months saying this over and over and over again. Have those debates in public. Have those discussions. The people from my community and from other communities that feel that they are not represented deserve a voice, deserve to be heard. And we should be seeing that in action, not just in words.
1 minute.
I don't have much else to say. I'm really sorry. If my tactics created too much of a stir, but I felt as though I had tried every other which way and was still not getting the answers I needed, and was still and the community was not getting the answers they needed. And I'm very lucky, a lot of my neighbors are here right now. I don't know whether they agree with me or not, but I know that they were curious and they wanted to be here. And that's important. So I hope you really take my words into account, and I hope that you really start to listen and follow through. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, Heather Snow. All right. Good evening.
Good
The
evening.
floor is yours.
Thank you. And thanks, Acela, for being a voice for our community. Time and again, she stood in front of you with a message from the other half of the community, the half that doesn't feel heard, doesn't feel seen, and doesn't feel respected by this board. I stood in front of this board as one of 2 attendees at your May special meeting with a plea that you use the results of the election as a clean slate and an opportunity to serve the entire district that you're elected as at-large representation for. Unfortunately, what I continue to see is a culture of secrecy and decision-making behind closed doors. As public officials, you are bound by the Texas Open Meetings Act, yet time and again, you go into closed session to discuss matters that are not protected as an exception, and to come out as a united front with no discussion, no questions asked, no dialogue, and certainly no data provided to your constituents. Moreover, it is becoming apparent that some on this board choose to share what's happening in closed session with their inner circle. And that inner circle is using it to their personal benefit and to the detriment of a large subset of our community. I remind each of you that you chose to serve in this role, chose to step into a position of great authority, and as the old adage goes, with great power becomes great responsibility. A responsibility to conduct the matters of this board in a way that doesn't require open records requests and veiled social media accounts. A responsibility to hold those that support you above board in a way that doesn't resort to bullying the small businesses of Argyle because they follow a page that has chosen to ask questions, or making baseless and patently false accusations about me in the same regard. Not to mention that a page that wouldn't even need to exist if this board had held themselves above reproach. And so again, I stand here today to ask you to please remember that you are a government body that absolutely should be conducting 99% of your business in open, viewable sessions to the public. That I am committed to being your biggest supporter. I am an educator and I stand with you if I see you embracing that responsibility. But a similar commitment to you that I made in May, that I will also be the first one standing at this microphone to hold you accountable when I see you neglecting this duty. I hope that the soon-to-be lone finalist is watching tonight's meeting or watches it in the coming days and understands that they are filling tremendous shoes. That letter, Dr. Wright, was written, yes, about Argyle ISD, but certainly to your leadership and the respect that this entire state has for the superintendency and the leadership and growth that you have led this district through. The shoes that they are filling is that of a superintendent that has led this district to a 13th Lone Star Cup, our very first year in 5A. A superintendent that sadly has not been given the opportunity to take a victory lap with this district that she led to that circle. I hope that that lone finalist is watching and knowing that despite our district's success, this job is not an easy one. That, in the words of Craig Hawksworth, we want our board and our administration to represent the values of our district. And Craig, we want them to represent the values of our entire district, not just those who live on the right side of the tracks.
Thank you. All right. Last tonight we have Sarah DeVee. Good evening. The floor is yours.
Hello, thank you. I'm Sarah, and our family has lived here for 17 years. We moved here, I'm sure, for many of the same reasons that most people moved here for, the excellent schools, the excellent community, and for the small town feel and spirit. My youngest of 4 is going into 5th grade, and I have 3 boys who started kindergarten in Argyle and who have all graduated. My oldest actually graduated from Oklahoma State just a month ago, and he started an excellent career, so it's super exciting to be moving him off the payroll. And I'm proud to say, very proud to say, that I think he and his friends who graduated from Argyle represent exactly what the school district, the school board, the staff, and the parents, and as a team, all of us set out to do. Just like in our mission statement, he was empowered to become an ambitious, proficient, socially responsible citizen and a future leader of tomorrow. Of course, there will be some differences in opinion on how we get there, but ultimately, we all want the same thing, what's best for our kids. And we know that what's best for them is fostered best by fully supporting our excellent teachers and staff. We know so much has changed with education. What you are pressured from the state as far as curriculum goes, testing requirements, and I can't even imagine all of the hoops that the staff, school board, everyone has to jump through. And I know your jobs are so difficult. As we continue to roll with these changes, I'd like to encourage the district to continue to provide, the utmost transparency to parents regarding curriculum and open communication between parents and teachers and the school board as much as we can. And I personally have seen so much progress in those areas, and I know that progress is kind of slow to come because it takes time and it takes effort and it takes everyone working together. And I understand it sometimes takes longer than some of us want. I just want you to know that you have a large yet not so vocal majority of professionally trained, highly educated, and highly skilled volunteers and advocates within this community who you will likely not see posting on social media because they are busy. They're busy coaching and remomming and leading clubs and raising their families and leading a Bible study, whether it's in Harvest or at Snooty Pig or whatever it is. And my main point is to warmly welcome our new finalist for the superintendent position and communicate our overwhelming support of our staff and our school board. We want you all to know that we are behind you and we support you, and we will be there if you need us in any capacity to serve on special committees or perhaps on a task force similar to what Frisco ISD assembled during their period of rapid growth. As a unified team, I know that we can proceed with and grow our strategic plan in a way that unites the community and provides the best and most opportunities for all of the students equally, continues to develop more CTE offerings, and attract and retain highly qualified teachers through parent engagement and involvement. Gotta take a breath, sorry. Whether it's to show up to volunteer and make the copies, throw the class parties, make sure those Amazon wish lists are fulfilled, give the gift cards, or just provide those little perks that can lift their day and hopefully keep them in this profession. We are here and we want what's best for our staff because we know that's ultimately what's best for our students. I also want you to know that, of course, we have always had wonderful parents and community members that have served on our school board, but to be honest, I think that this is truly a special group and that you guys are going to be able to accomplish great things with a new superintendent, and we so appreciate all of Dr. Wright's contributions. But as we move through this next period of rapid growth, I am fully confident that we will continue to have all of these accolades and grow and have wonderful progress, and that we can have 1 high school or 2 high schools, and it's going to be awesome, no matter what. I personally have seen so much progress over the years, like I said, and I know that if we work together, we can have meaningful progress as we go along. I also understand that you have restrictions and structures under TASB that limit your actions and interactions, and hopefully as a board and as a district, we can continue to grow and improve in all areas. Thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to skip down in the agenda and move to the first action item.
Make a motion that we, the Board of Trustees, name Dr. Courtney Carpenter as the lone finalist for the position of Superintendent in Argyle ISD, and to further authorize the Board President to negotiate the contract as discussed in closed session.
We have Mr. Hawksworth with a motion to approve naming the lone finalist for position of Superintendent of Argyle ISD. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Richie Deffenbaugh, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Dr. Carpenter. Before we have Dr. Carpenter and her husband, Craig, come up here, I just want to say the board's extremely grateful for Lisa Crass and their expertise in helping us go through this extensive search. We as a board have met 11 separate times throughout this process and put a lot of extensive work into it, and obviously we're unanimously confident in Dr. Carpenter's expertise, her experience, her vision, her passion for students, and look forward to welcoming her and her family to this district. So, thank you.
My blind spot there.
Yes, I would like to say just a few words, so thank you for giving me a chance. President Slate, members of the board, and to all of the Argyle community, those of you here and those of you watching online or those that are not, and our staff and students, it's great and honor to stand here tonight. As your lone finalist as superintendent of schools, I've watched for many years from afar at the successes of Argyle ISD under the direction of Dr. Wright, and it's absolutely an honor to be able to stand here and come in and be able to lead this amazing district. Just a few things. I want to express my admiration for Argyle ISD. Your commitment to excellence in education has been just paramount to many, many districts. As you mentioned in the letter a while ago that he wrote, so many districts have watched Argyle ISD over the years and absolutely have aspired to be an Eagle in Argyle ISD. So thank you for that. From academics to athletics, fine arts to community service, Eagles have continued to soar and exemplified the spirit of what it's about to be an Eagle. So I'm very honored to be considered for that opportunity to join this team. As superintendent, I'm absolutely acutely aware of the responsibilities that this role will take and the fast growth that this community is facing, and I look forward to jumping in with both feet. Thank you to my family. My husband's here tonight. My kiddos aren't here, but we will soon be here as a family, and just the opportunity to join this team. So thank you to everyone, to the community for being here. I look forward to getting to meet and know you and everyone else in the staff and all our students as they come back in August. So thank you very much.
Dr. Carper, we failed to highlight some of your experiences.
Okay.
Would you mind just going through your Midlothian experience,
Sure.
your South Lake experience, just for the audience?
Absolutely. So I come to you the last 2 years as Deputy Superintendent in Carroll ISD in South Lake. I served there the last 2 years, but most of my experience in central office and campus leadership has been in Midlothian ISD. And if you know anything about Midlothian, it's a fast growth district that went through a 2 high school split about 8 to 9 years ago. So I was a part of that experience as a campus principal, but also as a central office administrator. And so just with that experience, I think this is going to be an incredible journey to come into Argyle and really take what you have done just to honor the past, but help us create the future for all Eagles and for our staff and community. So that's kind of my background. Like I said, I spent the last 2 years in South Lake Carroll. It's been a tremendous experience, and I'm very excited to take those talents and bring them to Argyle.
Thank
So,
you.
mhm.
Thank you. All right, thank you. We'll move back up the agenda to the consent items. And do we have donations, please? All right, the June 2023 donations from AEBC, number 18, $1,250 for all sports graphic databases for social media. AEBC donation number 19, $1,768.50 for all sports Argyle Eagle flags. And AEBC donation number 20, $2,997 for girls track. The Alex Betzold Memorial Fund, $2,145 for high school girls basketball team, used as needed. And the Argyle South PTA, $6,000 for Argyle South Elementary, used for instructional materials. Our total June donations, $14,160.50. All right. The rest of the consent items, anyone have any questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent items as presented.
Motion to approve consent items as presented.
All right, Mr. Wester, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Artho, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Okay. Mr. Cohen, there you are. Fool me, sometimes you're over here waiting. I know.
Good evening. Now it's working. Okay, just a brief update on our projects tonight. Starting with our 2017 bond projects, we'll start with our 6th grade center renovation. We're making great progress there. We're on track to have that completely ready for first day of school. So we've got all of the new flooring installed. Everything has been painted. So we've got a shot here. You can see they've got some striping graphics in the hallway there, new flooring. It hasn't been cleaned yet, but it's all ready to go. On the right, we've got a picture of some of the new millwork that's gone in. This is the new millwork in the art room. Here are just some photos of our updated cafeteria, new flooring, new paint with some graphics. On the left, on the right, you can see the entrance, the ramp that goes up into the cafeteria. So we've got some graphics going on there, a little tile accent as you enter the cafeteria. Here are photos of the kitchen. So we've outfitted that with 99.9% new equipment, just a couple of pieces that we're able to reuse. So here are just 3 different photos of the equipment as it's being installed. It's not complete yet, but they'll be complete in the next week. Everything will be hooked up and ready to go. Kind of switching buildings. This is the old administration building, the old hallway and gymnasium. So on the left, some photos of electrical equipment that we had a little bit of concern earlier this year, whether or not we were going to get that on time. So these are photos of our new 2,000 amp disconnect and main switchgear. On the right is a photo of the sprinkler piping installation ongoing in the gymnasium. That roughing is complete, and they'll be putting the heads on that and wrapping up this week. Moving over to our transportation building renovation. Again, we're making great progress there. I'm not sure if we'll have transportation in there for the first day of school. We're going to be very close. They're currently temporary housed over in the girls' field house, the small field house over at the stadium. And if need be, we can continue to keep them there in that office area while we finish this project. But on the left, we've got the stair relocated, our CMU walls are complete. That's the break room on the other side of that wall. On the right is their new meeting space where we've converted the first 2 bays into meeting and training space for them. So all of our mechanical, electrical, plumbing has been roughed in, framing is complete. In the foreground of this picture is the wall that separates that from the rest of the maintenance shop, and it's completely sheetrocked, and they'll start taping metal on that next week.
Yeah, so this has been primarily done for the support of the staff and the training and extra bathrooms, et cetera.
Yes.
How
yes.
are we doing? Do we have enough parking for the buses very near this building? And are we going to have to look for parking for the buses?
We are going to have to look for parking at some point in the future. I'm not sure when that is. Albert would know more of that detail, but for now, we currently have enough parking, especially with moving maintenance to the other building. We're going to free up some of that space and have that available for more of the transportation vehicles and buses, White Fleet. Here's some other photos of it. On the left, that's one of the new bathrooms that we've created for them. They used to only have 3 bathrooms for the entire staff in that building, transportation and maintenance. So we've created 2 new large bathrooms for them. This is one of them, roughed in, ready for fixtures. And on the right, you can see them working on the structural steel framing to support the new overhead doors, so we can open up the last 2 bays of the metal building, and that's where they'll pull the buses in to work on them. Moving over to the maintenance building side of that project, again, we're making good progress there. It's going to be very close to having that ready by the time the school year starts. They've temporarily housed over in the intermediate school building, and luckily we're not opening at capacity, so they actually have the ability to stay there if need be, if we can't get them out by the start of school. But here on the left is a picture of one of their workshop areas that we've created. So they'll have an area where they can have all of their welders, saws, all of those tools set up, and the ability just to walk in there and use them without having to interrupt anyone else. So our sheetrock's going on. They're doing a tape and bed over there now. The photos on the right, you can see the upper right, all the door frames are there ready to be installed. A little bit behind in that picture, you can see some boxes. That's the new air conditioning units on site ready to be installed. So everything's looking real well there. Moving to our 22 bond projects. So at Elementary 4, we did start pushing dirt this week. I wish I had a photo from today. It'd be a lot better than this, but we've got some equipment on the right there in the background, and they're starting to strip topsoil, and then they'll start rough grading activities after that. Moving to our stadium and indoor activity projects, I just wanted to show you some of the information that we've been getting from our architect. So this is the preliminary site plan that we've been working on. It's actually not the latest. We made some changes after we met 2 weeks ago, which should be updated for our meeting that's coming this Monday. And then here, again, we've already updated this based on our last meeting. I haven't received that yet, but this is kind of our press box layout. Floor 1 on the left, second floor on the right, and this is kind of the plan that we're following through with at this point, with some minor changes. And then here, just a 3D rendering of what this is looking like at this time. And this is our press box and what it may look like. Very early concept here. And then here, just a layout of our indoor activity center. Again, we're not building a lot of locker space with this and things, so it's pretty much just 65 yards of turf under roof, and then a few support spaces there, which I believe we're going to move those actually down to the bottom, the south side of that photo, and we'll see that on Monday when architect returns. On our middle school project, and I've titled this one Middle School 1, Elementary 5. I know we're not really working on the elementary, but being as they're on the same site, we're kind of developing a site plan together. So just keep in mind we're using the prototype footprint for the elementary on the left here in white. But that may not be the final design that actually gets built there, but that's kind of our placeholder where that building will go. So on the right, in the white, is our middle school layout, and I believe that, yes, that is our loop design, is what they call it. They had two options for us that we looked at last meeting. The loop is what they called one of them, and cross something, I don't remember the name of the other one, but at the end of that meeting, everybody was in favor of the loop, so that's the direction we're headed right now as we develop the design further.
Jeff, back on that one, do we have access to the north all the way to Sam Davis, or are we not utilizing that?
We do, my understanding is we do have the ability to access Sam Davis via Postmaster, and that is what this design is reflecting. So on the right, the road kind of dead ends on the color graphic, but Postmaster's actually constructed. In this aerial, it's still a dirt road, but it is actually paved today. So the plan currently is to connect and for that to be our bus entrance, and they loop around in from the back and have parents coming in off 407 with the very long drives we've got to get all of that stacking off of 407.
And we're doing a decel lane on that green
We
strip
haven't
down
gotten
there?
into that yet, but more than likely the small green strip you see at the bottom right would have a decel lane to help get traffic out of the lane of travel as they're slowing down to make that turn.
Now, when 407 is ultimately widened, do we still have that? Is that like inside the right of way?
I believe it is outside of their right of way on our property.
Okay.
But we'll have to be cognizant of that as we develop design and make sure that we don't build something that, winds up being removed in just a few years as they widen that road. So, and we'll have to coordinate with TxDOT on all of that to make sure that we do. And here's our floor plan as it's being developed with the loop, kind of blocked out spaces. The different colors represent the different areas: administration, academics, athletics, cafeteria, library, and so on. And their concept here, why they called it the loop, is everything kind of loops around the central corridor there, as you can see on the right side. 2 stories, all the academics on the right side in 2 floors, and then on the left is where we'd have fine arts and athletics, cafeteria space, library.
That's 1,200 students, right?
For 1,200 students, yes. Miscellaneous projects, Hilltop Playground. So just this afternoon, I've got a date to fill in there for TBD. We will start demolition on Monday out there. So I expect the project will take 4 weeks or so to complete. So we'll have new playgrounds for the start of school. Don't have any new updates on the orchestra shell. Still late August possibility. On our Verkada camera and access control changeover, we've got all the cameras complete except in areas which we still have active construction going on, which will be maintenance, 6th grade center part of that, and transportation. Our card reader conversion, that's complete at Hilltop and West. The middle school is currently in progress, and I expect that to be complete within the next week and a half. And then also card readers at 6th grade center, maintenance and transportation. Some of those will come in the next few weeks as we get a little further along in that construction, ready to install that. They'll begin pulling wire next week. On our land acquisition, we're still in some discussions with Jack First and his engineers on some acreage there in what he's developing. And then we've got some other locations that we're looking at with our realtor down on 407. And so I'll continue to update you on those locations as we get more information and details. And that is all I have on construction updates. Any questions?
I have a question on the 6th grade center. What I recall, the fire marshal was having us put a fire lane.
Yes.
And last we did was some testing to see. We approved some testing. Has that been incorporated into the project?
We are
or not?
currently bidding that project. Is out for bid. Those are due on Tuesday from our general contractors. Plans are in for review at the town of Argyle. We received comments back on Monday, so we're working to address those and get that back to them by this coming Monday so that we can get on their P&Z agenda for July 5th. And
change order, is that gonna be like a change order issue with that?
that will actually be a separate contract. So I'll actually bring you a recommendation for a general contractor, a new contract. So we're going to do it outside of the original renovation.
And we can still-
Although we have accounted for it in the budget figures you're looking at, we're holding $1 million in there, so it will not increase anything that you see there, unless we go over that $1 million.
And we don't have to have that completed time of occupancy, or do we?
We do not have that, have to have that completed for school to open. In fact, we'll be lucky to start it by the time school starts. But Fire Marshal has already agreed that we do not have to have that in place as long as it's in place.
Okay.
He may have us write a letter, but at this point, we're very actively involved in communicating, and I don't think he may not even need that.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Anyone else for Jeff? All right. Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. The nameplateless Dr. Jordan. We'll get that taken care of.
Thank you. In case you didn't know who I was. I brought my clicker though. I'm going to give you an overview of the T-test system, which is the instrument that administrators use to evaluate teachers and other staff members. So T-test stands for Texas Teacher Evaluation and Support System. So we remind teachers it is not just an event, it is a process. And there's three main parts to it, which is the goal setting, the self-assessment, that's what the teachers do, the evaluation cycle, and then the student growth measure. There are four main domains: the planning, instruction, learning environment, and professional practices and responsibilities. And under each one of those are dimensions, so there's a total of 16 dimensions. When administrators are coming in to do walkthroughs, which is the 10 to 20 minute shorter evaluation, they're evaluating instruction and learning environment. When they do the 45-minute formal observation, they'll include planning, and then at the end of the year for the summative, that will include all four domains. So here's kind of what the rubric looks like. The dimensions are at the top. Then there's the descriptions and the performance levels: distinguished, accomplished, proficient, developing, and improvement needed. The proficient teacher is a rock solid teacher, and we remind our staff members that because they all want gold stars. They are overachievers, but we are all learners and trying to improve. So our requirements here in Argyle ISD is that all of the administrators train their staff at the beginning of the year. The teachers will do the goal setting, the self-assessments, and then have a goal setting conference with the administrator. Probationary staff, which is staff members that have been here 2 or less years, last year they received 2 walkthroughs in the fall, 1 in the spring, and a formal observation, as well as everybody has a summative. Then our staff members that have been here for more than 2 years, they have 1 less walkthrough, which was just 2 per year for walkthroughs and 1 formal observation. The formal observation is a planned event. There is a pre-conference and a post-conference. And then, of course, the summative, there are deadlines and dates for all of those things. This is the timeline.
Dr. Jordan, so the walkthroughs
Yes, sir.
are not scheduled?
Correct, they are not scheduled. This is the timeline for last year. I will be bringing the timeline for this year to the July board meeting, with a note down there at the bottom that the formal observation must be done before contracts are renewed. So I'm going to go through some of the areas. Here's a sample goal that a teacher put in, because one of the goals has to be a professional or personal goal. So this teacher was working on improving her web page to give parents and students access to additional learning opportunities at home. So she put this goal in, then she'll provide evidence at the end of the year. So this teacher sent out a survey to the parents, asked them if they used this, if they were happy with it, what they got from it, and that would be part of the discussion at the summative conference. The second goal is a student learning objective or student learning goal. So this is going to be tied to student growth, student performance. This was a writing goal to include more writing across disciplines. And then she provided evidence at the end of the year in form of her data wall that she kept throughout the year to show growth there. So the evaluation focus, we're looking at teacher behaviors, we're looking at student behaviors, and of course learner outcomes. At the post-conference, we're going to be identifying an area of reinforcement. This is what the staff member is doing very, very well. And then an area of refinement. This is something that they can improve upon. And our very best teachers want refinement because they are always working on improving their performance in the classroom and their students' performance. Not all districts use t-tests. Some create their own. And so I think part of the question was, is this tool a good tool for us to evaluate teachers? And we have found it to be a very good tool, but it's not the only tool we use. If we get to this part or at any point during the year and a teacher is needing more support, there's support available besides what we collect from these observations. So we have multiple times we're going in the classroom, and those are just the minimums that we need to do. Many administrators are doing far more than that, especially if there is a reason for concern. If the student data doesn't look as it should, if we're getting a lot of reports from parents or students or behavior concerns, then that's the time that we're going to go in and do additional ones. We're going to have those conversations with teachers, provide the layered support, and then potentially a more formal growth plan. And the goal of all of those things is to improve the teacher performance, to improve student performance, but there are times when non-renewal is a possibility. So what do administrators have to do to be prepared? It starts with a 3-day training and a certification test, and then passing the certification test online for 3 consecutive years, and then there's bonus years. There's lots of words there, so I gave you an example on the next one. Like if you get certified the first year, this was 21-22, then recertified 2 years in a row online, you get the bonus years, and then you have to recertify. If you miss your recertification, then you're potentially going to have to start all over again. But that keeps all of us on track. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't, but I do want to say a couple things.
Yes, sir.
I want to say, one, I want to congratulate you on your new position.
Thank you.
And I've heard great things, and the community's responded awesome, and
thank you.
Pulling for you. And then I want to say thank you for a great opening at South. I know that was how many kids showed up there was a lot more than we anticipated, so that was no easy job.
It was a wonderful year, though. We have such support from our central office staff, our whole staff at large was very positive, and our community gave us so much grace as we figured it out in the beginning. So it was a wonderful year. There were hectic good times, but in a good, fun way. It was great. But thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Dr. Wright is going to be doing the HR spring update for Chris Daniel.
This is actually Chris Daniels' report, but I'm going to be talking about it since he's not here. This is the HR spring update. And just a brief review of the hiring process. Here's the process. We're posting the jobs in Teacher Job Network, always. We're always doing that. We're sometimes posting in Indeed also. When we have something like a police officer, we have up to 5 places that we post that because Teacher Job Network won't reach our target audience. We have a teacher screener that teachers are required to take. We do have standardized interview questions for the district. We have background and certification validation, reference checks, letter of recommendation, and board approval. An email is established, onboarding is sent through Frontline Central, Safe Schools credentials are sent to the employee, and there's an in-person meeting with HR staff, and we had some of that going on today. When they leave the district, exit interviews, staff who resign voluntarily are invited to complete an exit interview. The exit interview is completed online and housed in Frontline Central. There's also an option, if they wish, to meet in person for the interview. Concerning information is shared with me and the supervisor. Exit interviews, the questions: what attracted you to our district? Did your job duties turn out as expected? What's the main reason for leaving the district? Suggestions for improvement. Would you recommend Argyle ISD as a good place to work? This year, there were 38 professional staff members who left at the end of the 22-23 school year. 9 retired, 7 left the education field, 3 stayed at home with family, 9 changed districts, 4 moved out of the area, 4 left for personal reasons, and 2 for other.
Dr. Wright, do you know, is that pretty standard, typical, nothing unusual about
No,
that?
there's not anything unusual about that data. 15 hourly staff members left at the end of the 22-23 school year. Their reasons for leaving: 6 retired, 2 moved out of the area, 1 changed districts, 2 accepted teaching positions, 1 returned to college, and 3 left for personal reasons. And that's all that he has here. So that's the end of that. It just basically tells you how many people we had leave. It talks about what we are experiencing in terms of retention, why people are leaving. We do not have as many applications as we used to have. We used to draw maybe up to 400 on an elementary teacher. We don't get that many anymore.
400?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We have had the most difficulty with American Sign Language with getting applicants but we do have 1 hired, but for American Sign Language and for engineering. But we also have 1 hired for engineering. But those have been our most challenging positions. Physics is usually challenging, but right now we're fully staffed in physics. Questions about the HR report that Mr. Daniel provided?
What do you do with the results of the exit interview? Do you know? I mean, I guess this.
Well, as stated here, if there's something concerning in the exit interview, something that is important for the supervisor to know, something that's important for the superintendent to know, then he immediately has that conference with us to let us know what has caused the person to leave, if it's a concerning interview. If they're saying that they're moving out of the area because their spouse took another job, that isn't considered concerning. The concerning ones we follow up on immediately.
I mean, I don't know if it's even fair to me to ask. Do we have any?
Yes.
And they've been addressed, I take it. They've been addressed, I take it.
Yes, correct. That's correct. Anything else on that one? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, we've got budget update, Liz. Unless you've moved to communications and we didn't know about that. We'll see how the photo turns out.
Yes. Okay, so this is just your monthly update that we start in the spring each year as we're building our budget for the next fiscal year starting in September. And just as a reminder, our monthly updates are just high-level overviews unless there's been a big major change or development. And our workshops that we had in late May and in early June are where we got more into the numbers and the details and how we build it and where everything is. So just kind of a quick reminder, we're on our
June update. We should have one more update before we go to adopt our budget. If there's major changes with any legislation out there that potentially could come in a special session that would happen before that, we could have another workshop and discuss it. We're still looking for our certified property values on July 25th, and then our public hearing on the 21st of August. And that does go along with our regular meeting. Just some reminders on some key factors. Legislative year, again, there wasn't really anything or not much of anything that occurred for us as far as school finance legislation. We're still looking to see if there's a special session. There's been some indications it may be as late as September if there is one. There's some bills that are filed in a special session right now for tax relief. I don't believe that they've come to the House and the Senate have come to an agreement on that. I think that may get pushed out a little bit further. Enrollment and attendance, which we're going to talk a little bit about our ADA here in a minute, our taxable assessed property values, setting the tax rate, again for our district formula transition grant, because that is a large item for us, and the ESSER funding cliff. All right, again, legislative every 2 years. The budget that we have built is based on current law with the exception of two things that we know have been included in the state budget for school districts, and one is the guaranteed yield change. And then there's also some funds that have been moved around, which we know doesn't affect our bottom line because of formula transition grant, but there was some school safety grant money that was included in there. So it just kind of changes lines for us. And just a reminder, the basic allotment has not been increased since 2019. So y'all all have seen the inflation that's happened since then. And just a reminder that schools are still funded at a stagnant amount of 2019 funding.
Just so people have I've learned a lot about this in the year, more than I ever cared to. Our basic allotment's like $6,500, and I hear people, inside, maybe even outside the district, saying that, the cost of that per kid has gone up $1,000 per 1,000, and so that's where public education is having trouble. Is that our cost per student has gone up maybe $1,000, but our allotment stayed flat.
That's correct. The per student funding has stayed flat since 2019. But the cost, as we all know, everything right now, the costs have increased significantly.
Since then?
Sorry, what did you say?
There's been inflation since then?
Yeah.
But utilities,
maybe just a little. Right, for us, some large items. With any growing district, when we say the funding has not been increased since 2019, if you look at our historical data that we provided in our budget workshops and we look at the last 5 years, our revenue has increased, but that is because our student numbers have increased. So yes, our budget is getting larger, but our expenses are getting larger. So, but that's per student funding. We still get the same amount per student that we have since 2019. And that, when we'll kind of just jump ahead for a minute, when we're talking about formula transition grant, House Bill 3 in 2019 set a certain funding per student for our district. It was for any district that would not have received an increase under House Bill 3, and we happen to be one of those. So without formula transition grant, we would have been funded at a level prior to 2019. So this provided a little bit of funding. And without any future legislative action, that funding goes away in 24-25, so we actually revert back to prior funding levels and prior than 2019. So for our district, we're unique with about 100 districts in the state, give or take a few, in that individual scenario. So I believe all districts are hurting right now, not seeing any type of increase on per student funding since 2019, but those of us that have the formula transition grant stand to lose quite a bit more in one more year when that runs out in 24-25. So that's our push on potential legislative action and asking our representatives and to advocate on our behalf, and that our funding should not decrease and go back to prior 2019 levels, that we're asking them to extend that funding and to keep us at least at the funding level that we reached at 2019.
And I think it'd be a benefit to everybody to know that there was a school safety bill passed. This is a good example where the legislature and the politicians are celebrating. We passed a school safety bill, and you're going to get $15,000 per campus and a 30-cent per student allotment to help fund. It's 28 cents. 28 cents. 28 cents per student and $15,000 per campus to help fund that mandate that we're putting on you, school, to have a security officer, a police officer. But if you're a formally transition grant school like us, they take that money that they're giving us in the school safety bill, they're taking that money away from our grant.
That is correct.
So we get no more money even though we have the mandate.
That's correct. Our bottom line does not change. The line item where the money comes in changes for us, but our bottom dollar does not change. But we do have mandates with those that we have to fund those mandates. And I believe one of those items is an action item later on tonight to add an additional police officer for us, to have an officer at every campus.
They come back and they say, hey, thank us for school safety bill. We funded school safety. As it relates to Argyle, no, they didn't.
Correct. And if you look at some of the communication that comes out, they'll talk about a $10 per student funding. Well, what they don't tell you is that they were funding that at $9.78 already. So the message is a little bit blurred there, but yes, you're exactly right.
Well, they tout $330 million is how much they funded that bill for. That's 28 cents per student, and it's $15,000 per campus.
Mm-hmm.
Yet anybody that's part of the formula transition grant, to your point, it goes in one bucket and comes out the other bucket.
And
Right,
and we spent a lot of time talking about this, and I'm hot about it because you need to know, everybody, that they're down there and all they're worrying about right now is educational safety, savings accounts, and vouchers. That's all they're trying to get through, and that's where the focus is, and they're not worried about increasing allotments, and I hadn't heard anything about extending formula transition grants. Those necessary funding.
That's correct.
And the pressure on many districts is adopting a deficit budget. You look at Frisco 2 days ago, adopted a $24 million deficit budget. It's going to
What was
Denton?
Denton? 7?
I don't know. They said they're going to adopt one. They're giving the lowest raises they've ever given.
Keller's adopting a deficit budget. I mean, it's just a struggle. School finance is a struggle, and I know we're preaching to the choir here, but it is important for everyone to hear. Like, they're touting a lot of funding for schools, and they're not funding schools.
And they have a $35 billion surplus, and they promised every public education to be fully funded. They ended the legislative session. They didn't fund anything.
That's correct.
And then they're thinking about calling a special session, and the special session is going to be all about vouchers and educational safety accounts, savings accounts, which don't fund public education. Just so
that is correct.
And our legislators aren't even cognizant, even though they've heard about it, about formula transition grant. It's not even on their minds.
So when a special session is called for school finance, I feel like we need to advocate on our behalf of our school district and actually have communication with our representatives and our senators and let them know how formula transition grant will affect our district and what that will do to us financially. We're looking at a $3.5 million funding cliff from formula transition grant without any additional school funding. Now, if there's anything, and I know we've talked about this a lot in our workshops, and we had some slides and some graphs, so I know there wasn't really anybody in our workshop that was there to hear that, so I'm glad there are some people here. So I'm talking a little bit more that's not on our slide here. But if they do any type of basic allotment increase, that lessens the cliff on the formula transition grant. But I want you to remember the last thing that they left with, the last bill that I believe had a increase to the basic allotment was a $50 increase per student. Well, you look at just, take 5,000, 5,100 times 50 and see what type of difference that would make for our district. Again, for next year, that doesn't change our bottom line, formula transition grant, because again, in one line out the other, but it could reduce it some on that funding cliff. So if they would take any action is better for us than no action. However, we would push and ask for a much more significant increase than a $50 basic allotment increase.
Which is $257,000.
Right. So that's not going to help many school districts. Sorry.
Accumulate this data, type up a one-pager, so we can give it to our community, so that they know, contact people. They know also that these facts aren't well known, that we haven't been an increase in funding since 2019, and we could potentially go back to lower levels with this transition grant not going through. We need to know that, and the community needs to know that, so they can actually apply some pressure as well.
And we can get
These
some
are just
information out there.
common sense things.
Right. So we had
Like
some
Doc-
information that Dr. Wright shared with our representatives early on, and it had some. It's short and to the point,
Continually.
and it's it basically tells the story really quickly because you don't want to lose them in a long explanation. You know, you want, and so we've got that we can get out.
I think it's worth it.
We have all our representatives and our senators' emails and contact. We have all that.
And I know several of us and Dr. Wright have been consistent in contacting our legislators, and we got to keep up the fight. So.
Yes. And I do appreciate it anytime you call and talk to them or send them messages on our behalf,
Yeah,
because I think it's important, like you said, for them to know if we aren't telling the story, how are they going to know? So we need to be telling that story and let them know what any type of inaction will do to us in 24-25.
And can you, I guess, for the people out here as well, how many districts are there in the state, roughly?
1,025.
Around roughly 100.
No, okay.
District.
I mean
Oh, sorry,
districts.
you're talking about not formally transition grade.
1,025.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, and about 100 of them, of us, are formula transition grant, which kind of tells you the perspective when you're like 1/10 barely of, not even, of the number of total districts that are out there. You know, you almost have to have a louder voice than most because, you know, we're in the minority as far as being able to be helped at this point. So we really have to have a voice for them to listen to.
Yes, that's true. Okay, enrollment and attendance, as you know, our revenue estimates are based on are largely based on our student population. So this is where we have made a change that we talked about in our 2 workshops. When we first started discussing our enrollment and attendance and building our budget for next year, we actually had a demographic report that gave us a high and a low projection, and they actually termed it high and low. And as you know, the last update they brought back to us, they've actually dropped the term low off of the bottom numbers and have now explained to us that they feel like that is our mid-range estimate. So with that knowledge, and as we've talked through the scenarios in our different workshops, I've gone back and looked at, you know, how to address the estimate moving forward, because we took that high and low and used a mid-range between. Well, now if our demographer's going, we really think that's not a low number, that's where you're going to end up, we're moving back down to lowering our estimate down of our ADA to that base number that the demographer has given us. And so our original estimate we had when we were talking about it was around 5,400 students or ADA, and now we're talking about just under 5,300. So in lowering that and bringing back that more to a conservative outlook, we're talking about a little under $1 million difference in our revenue for next year, and that would be a little bit $1 million less in what we're going to budget for next year in our revenue. And I know we gave you some slides and some information in those workshops that actually gave you hard numbers on that. But we feel like that's really the best direction that we should take at this point with the new information and the updated information from the demographer. Just a reminder on taxable assessed values, we had a huge increase. We thought last year was a large increase at around 25%. The preliminary estimates came in at 34% increase. Again, we don't get certifieds until July 25th. We do, however, receive weekly updates. Our latest update showed that we had a little over $1.7 billion in protests. And as we kind of talked about, we felt like with that type of increase, our protests would go up significantly over what they had in the past, and I believe that they have. Because if you're looking at your individual property and if you pull that up and see a 30 or 34% increase, I'm pretty sure you're calling in a protest on that. So again, we're looking at this, watching it to see how it comes out July 25th, and we'll take that information and adjust our budget numbers based on that. I have made an estimate for you. Came out at actually preliminary numbers there in blue. The red numbers are the certified, so I show you the preliminary, how they drop down to certified each year, going back from 16, 17 on up. And so there in the pink is kind of where we're estimating that our certifieds may end up if we look at historical trends. It's probably going to come in a little bit less than that right now because I believe that, again, those protests are going to drive that number a little bit lower this year. But it still is a significant increase for our taxable assessed values. The biggest impact on that is for our INS funding. That increases our additional capacity potential for future bonding. Tax rate information, just a reminder here, I don't think this is anything new. We have a potential of an 8 cents compression based on current law. Again, that's in a special session right now. Any changes we hope to know before we set our tax rate. If they're still discussing it in a special session about it, we may not bring you a tax rate in August. We may wait till September, just because if they're still considering making a change. I do believe the change that they're talking about would make our compression even more for next year. All right, I think we've already talked about this formula transition grant. Again, it's going to expire in 24-25, and we will get some good one-page data to send out. So again, just the outlook, changing to conservative revenue estimates. That's the biggest change from last month's budget update after we talked about it in our workshops. There are some additional staffing considerations that we discussed as well, some additional expenditures off of some requests that came in from departments. In looking at those, we're talking about, again, about $1 million less in revenue than we'd originally planned, and talking about our expenditures going up almost $600,000 if we consider all of the additional staffing positions that were listed and requested and some additional items. We're going to continue to monitor school finance legislation and bring you any information throughout any type of special session. And then we also have included a proposed increase of compensation plan. We've discussed that quite a bit at our workshop. That's on the agenda tonight as well. We've set aside $1.3 million in our budgeted numbers to cover that so that we had that planned and accounted for. And then just a real quick reminder of where our general fund, M&O fund balance is at. We ended last year at 28%. You know, it's a goal to remain at least a minimum of 25%. And again, if your revenue and your expenditures are growing every year, then the amount we need to put in fund balance would have to grow to maintain that percentage. And that is difficult in the current school finance environment. When we're talking about a potential funding cliff, if we're talking about not having any type of legislation to increase school funding since 2019. So just a reminder that, you know, we do have that as a goal, but that is something that we may see an up and down in over the next few years. So those are just some quick highlights again after what we talked about in our workshop. Do y'all have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, Dr. Wright.
I'm gonna go up there.
Okay.
Yeah,
The superintendent report.
yeah, it's the TEA document. That's it. Okay, I'm going to be talking just a little bit about the A through F refresh and what was presented to the superintendents and to the districts to give to the school board. Of course, it was in May when they first came out with it, and so I just updated this to June. But basically, you're aware that we've been getting an A through F in our accountability. And this is a refresh, a supplemental refresh for the accountability system. So why are we refreshing the A through F system? Well, let's look first at what the purpose of the A through F accountability is. We're supposed to be continuously improving student performance. We're supposed to be eliminating achievement gaps that are based on race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. And we're supposed to be ensuring that this state is a national leader in preparing students for post-secondary success. A through F is a tool to help meet these continuously improved goals for students. So fostering a culture that supports growth and continuous improvement when This performance information is public is a difficult but critical task for education leaders. So that's what we're doing. And as a district, we have additional information that helps us inform performance besides the A through F system. Here's the feedback that's been gathered on the potential A through F changes. Feedback was gathered all the way up through 22, and then you can see the timeline here where multiple rounds of frameworks for the refreshed A through F system were published. Then the next thing that happened, the A through F system has stayed the same the last 5 years, but statute requires updates to meet goals for students. So that's why it's required by law. To help school leaders reflect on performance improvements, A through F cut points have remained unchanged. But indicators must be updated given statutory requirements guiding the goals of the system. And this is the year for those changes, 2023. So you can see the refresh year there. So what is what if? What do they mean by these ratings? Well, what they've done is take your 2022 rating, and they've said, what would that be if we applied the 2023 rating to your 2022 data? Even though they're using different methodologies, but that's what they're looking at. So school year 22-23 ratings are based on a different set of rules than previous A through F ratings. 22 ratings and 23 ratings can't be compared side by side. It's possible that a campus with an A rating in 22 may improve in 23 and yet get a B rating. And there was a video that Mike Morath, the commissioner, made. I sent out to you all, and I know some of you watched it because you made comments back to me about what you thought about the video or how you thought it was good or informative. It's not a simple apples to apples comparison this year. You have to latch on to that fact. So what if ratings are preliminary versions of campus and district ratings using the new methodology, but you're looking at your 22 results. You don't have your 23 results. These what if ratings don't replace 22 ratings. They're just another tool to support continuous improvement. The 23 Accountability Manual is open for public comment until the 20th of June, so that date has come and gone. So we're past that now. So what if ratings released on May 31 are preliminary? Because they're preliminary, they're shared with districts directly and are not published yet. What if final versions of campus and district ratings from 22 using the A to F methodology will be shared alongside 23 ratings in the fall of 23. You're not getting these ratings until the fall of 23. Now that's not what we're used to. We're used to having these ratings in August, but this year it's going to be later. This is going to allow you, the board members, educators, parents, and the public to get a sense of whether performance ratings issued in 23 represent higher, lower, or similar performance as ratings issued in 22 to support continuous improvement moving forward. So let's look at the preview of preliminary what-if ratings. Now these are our own numbers for the district, and we're looking at 22 on the left, and what if we had taken that 22 score and applied the 23 methodology to it? You can see that we would still get the A for the district. You can see the numbers go down a little bit, but the A is still there. Hilltop, you might remember that Hilltop got an 89 overall. You can look down there at the bottom where it says overall. Well, that comes up to a 90. So using the 22 data and applying the 23 methodology to it, Hilltop gets that 90 for the overall rating. West had a 91, and West goes up to a 92 overall using that methodology. This is just theoretical. It's not changing the score at all. This is just what if. This is let's pretend. High school, this is very strange, but high school actually goes down using this methodology, even though high school had an incredible score overall. Incredible student achievement and incredible overall. Then our middle school goes up. Middle school goes up from 90 to 91. So middle school's right in there, and you can see that middle school's numbers either stay the same, or like on domain 2, they go down 1, but on closing the gaps, they go up 3. So up 1 overall. And there's nothing magic about these are just what ifs. Across the state of Texas, 66% of the ratings stay the same, 28% decrease, and 6% increase. So not very many go up. But you can see that a couple of hours, they don't necessarily go up a letter grade on ours, but except for Hilltop, but they do go up a few points.
So Dr. Wright, which factor are they looking at in the 23 methodology that drops the high school so significantly?
It's college and career.
CCMR.
Yeah.
Okay.
It drops like it used to be 40%.
That's what's driving it,
So
because
they
the
changed
achievement,
on
college,
they took
career,
the
military
ratings
readiness.
of how heavy that was weighted, and they took it down. I read a bunch of articles about this, and there were plenty of districts that went from A in their high school to C's.
And that doesn't mean your school didn't do as well or better.
I agree. I just.
So this preliminary what-if presentation is meant to help inform. As a board, there's nothing you need to do right now. When the ratings are released in September, you should use the final what-if ratings to compare with the 23 ratings. So the point is, your school can do as well or better and maybe not get as high a score. That's what they're trying to share with board members. But it's not a simple apples to apples comparison. So here's the timeline. See where it says that you're going to get, it says September 26. That's a long time from now. The ratings are released to the districts through TEAL. TEAL is what we log into to get every bit of our data. And then they don't get released publicly till the 28th. And this is so really different for us because we're so used to coming back in August and sharing with the district and sharing with the campuses how they're doing, and a lot of the goals that are set are based on these ratings and based on the achievement. And one of the all of the campuses have a goal to whatever their distinction, their number of distinction designations might be right now, to add 1 to that. That's one of their goals right now. So it's just hard to wait that long to see these, but that's what's happening. So these are just, again, saying that the comparisons will be, it's not an actual rating. The 22 rating stays where it is, but it's, eventually you get an apples to apples comparison under the refreshed cut points and methodology. This is just an overview here of showing how it changes over time. And that's what TEA sent us, and I did put our data into it. Okay, then other couple of things that I want to talk about. The Lone Star Cup, we didn't talk about that in the recognition time because I wanted to bring it up separately. Argyle High School did get a 13th Lone Star Cup. That's 11 in a row. It's a state record. It was already a state record for most consecutive.
Nice
But
work,
now,
Mr. Gang.
kudos to John King and Argyle High School. Now, though, Argyle High School has tied Highland Park for the most ever, 13. So we've tied the state record for most, and we hold the state record for most consecutive. So that's very, very, very impressive for the high school. And you got to see a large number of the academic team tonight. A few of you had some questions about the Lone Star Cup points, so I figured it up And 41% of those Lone Star Cup points came from either fine arts or academics, band, UIL team, and 59% came from athletics. So it was by no means all athletics or by no means all fine arts and academic. It was very, very balanced overall, with a lot of different areas showing extreme success in the first year in 5A. So huge congratulations, Mr. King, for the high school. Now, moving along with how we finished the year, softball lost to Northwest in the regional quarterfinals. That was after they were district champions and by-district champions and area champions. They had a really, really good year in softball. They did graduate 7 seniors. Baseball played all the way to the state championship. They lost at the state game 3-2 to Magnolia West. We were very, very proud of their performance this year, their first year in 5A. Tennis, Meghna Kumar was the 5A state girls singles champion. Coach Danielle Blair received the UIL NFHS State Coach of the Year award for the 21-22 season. They give that a little bit in the rears. Boys golf were Region 1 team champions, and Gavin Lane was the Region 1 individual champion. They went to state, and they got 5th at state in Georgetown. Girls were Region 1 champions, and they competed for 5A state, and they got 7th at state. So that was very good also. Track, you saw Gator Young here tonight. He won 5A pole vault state, and Eli Barnes got 3rd. Shay Feely placed 7th in the 100 meet hurdles. So once again, the academic team won the 5A state championship. I want to talk a little bit about zoning. We had our west zone, our south zone, Hilltop, and had met with the board and decided that we were going to have to move the Waterbrook and Brazier Estates back to Hilltop to try to establish a little more equity in enrollment. West is an 850 school, and South's an 850 school, and Hilltop's a 750 school. But the thing is, we have a new life skills class and a new EXE class, and we have a base unit that serves all 3 of the elementaries. And so we're moving 1 EXE class from South to Hilltop. So we have 4 classrooms at Hilltop that are tied up with special programs. So that's part of the reason that we can't exactly balance these enrollments. So we were going to put Waterbrook back at Hilltop where it was, but then when we counted up the numbers again with the demographer, we were going to have to move some staff. And if we put Waterbrook back at South, we don't have to move teachers. We don't have rooms to move teachers into at Hilltop because we have these special programs at Hilltop. So that's where we are with this zoning. We're not, I know people will question, why we have a certain program at one place or why we have a certain number of students at West or a certain number at South. But we're trying our very best to put these programs in locations where the students don't have to be on the bus so long, and also to provide the 22-to-1 across the district.
Dr. Wright, I can remember when we zoned for South, and therefore we had West, South, and Hilltop. I thought when we zoned, the projections were that South would actually be under capacity, Hilltop would be right at it, and West would be close to capacity.
That we did think that of South until the Ridge went to South, and that's what changed everything, was when the Ridge went to South.
I thought that we were kind of projecting with the Ridge going there, with those numbers. Anyway, but the numbers turned out to be far skewed. It wasn't some calculated effort to keep Hilltop, lower.
Oh, there's never been any conscious effort to keep
Hilltop under capacity and south over capacity or west over capacity. Never, ever. Not at all. But we had the ridge, we had to take the ridge somewhere, and we let the students that were already at west stay at west, and the rest of them went to south. And then also Waterbrook and Brazier were zoned to south from Hilltop.
And so there seems to be a little bit of concern about how this rezoning, most recent rezoning occurred, and I'd like to kind of walk through that with you, if you don't mind. My recollection is when we're looking at rezoning, the demographer comes in and makes some projections about, hey, we can take one pocket here, Waterbrook and the surrounding areas, and we can rezone that to Hilltop, and that would relieve some pressure on south.
Yes, that is correct.
And the demographer came up with those lines, and the demographer came up with those recommendations and said that's one way to do it, correct?
That's correct.
And
That
the
the
board
demographer said that if we could take Waterbrook and Brazier Estates and everything in between, that would help, yes, with the crowding at south. That's
And the board
correct.
had no problem with that. And the board had no problem with that.
No, the board was receptive to that. That is correct.
In fact, the board was fine with it.
Correct.
Okay, and then the administration studies it a little bit and says, okay, how does this impact the schools from a staffing standpoint? Can we make it work if we do that zoning that the demographer's recommending, that we're all fine with? Does it work from a staffing standpoint? Your administration studied that, correct?
Yes, we did, and found that we were going, in order to pull off two things, in order to pull off the special programs at Hilltop and all the way from Waterbrook through Brazier, we were going to have to move south teachers to Hilltop, yes.
And so in a workshop, budget workshop,
Yes.
you came back and you said, we looked at that, moving that Waterbrook and surrounding areas, and it's not going to work from a staffing standpoint, so we're recommending to the board
Yes.
that we leave Waterbrook at south, correct?
Correct.
The board didn't say move Waterbrook out of Hilltop, did it?
To move Waterbrook out of Hilltop?
Yes.
Well, Waterbrook wasn't in Hilltop.
But when we said we were okay with, the board didn't say move Waterbrook out of Hilltop, did it?
Oh, no,
And
no.
the board didn't draw any of the lines, did it?
No, no.
And the
but
board
the board
didn't say, we don't want master plan communities in Hilltop. did
There
it?
wasn't any discussion of the words master plan communities weren't used.
And the board never said, we don't want diversity at Hilltop.
The word diversity wasn't used.
Okay. And so
We-
the
we
whole
have
idea
talked-
that the reason Waterbrook was left at south was because from a staffing standpoint, you believe, the administration believes, it's the only way it's going to work.
It is, there are
There's not
two
enough
things that are
rooms.
going on.
There's
Again,
not enough classrooms.
one of the things that's going on, we have a new EXI class and a new life skills class, and we put those at Hilltop. And then we already had another EXI class at South, which we moved, and Hilltop has a base class. So there are 4 classes over there. If you think about that, that's 88 seats right there. But we couldn't do both. We couldn't have all 4 of those special programs and have Waterbrook all the way to Brazier at Hilltop and make it work. We couldn't.
And so the board basically just agreed with the recommendation from the administration.
It was really probably more the recommendation from the demographer, but yes, with the change that we had to make, yes.
And that's how that zoning situation occurred.
Right, right.
You rest your case.
I rest my case. I pass the witness.
We have done
Thank you,
our
Counselor.
very best to provide 1 to 22 across this district.
And I believe the administration is trying to do the right thing in terms of how they do it from a staff standpoint and how to equitably divide.
We've made
the
a
student population.
huge effort to be equitable.
Yes.
That's all I have on the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We go to action item 10B, consider approval of TASB delegate and alternate. I'll entertain that motion.
Leanne, did you volunteer for this?
I did not.
Because honestly, yeah.
I'm very happy to go.
Okay.
Very happy to go.
Are you throwing your hat in the ring?
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
Do you want to
definitely.
go?
I would sacrifice that because she's got so many kids at home. It doesn't need to be away at these conferences.
It's
But
in Dallas this time.
actually, that might be
In
the reason
Dallas.
why
I was
you
gonna
want to
say,
do
You're
this.
making better friends with that than me right now.
Never mind. Maybe that's the reason you're volunteering.
You
Okay.
need the hours.
I do need the hours.
I'll still entertain that motion to approve action item 10D.
So moved.
All right, Dr. McDade doesn't care for Mrs. Artho. Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Westrom, second. Any further discussion? No one cares about me that I'm an alternate. It's like, come on.
It's good to
All
see you
right.
step up.
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I've done my time, Mrs. Arthur.
It's gonna be great.
It's good. I need the
Great.
information.
It is good.
Yeah.
It's a good experience.
All right, action item 10C. Liz.
Yes. Mr. Daniels prepared for you the compensation plan increase for the 23-24 school year. He has on here that it's recommending teachers and librarians receive a 3% of market general pay increase. It comes out to $1,900, and then a 3% market increase for other employees. And then this also includes, this package includes moving up our base aid pay as well as our student nutrition base pay to $15 an hour. And that will make us more competitive in the market. We struggled a little bit in those two areas throughout the year and feel like moving to $15 an hour as a base pay will help solve that, being a little more competitive and being able to hire a little bit easier. So the total estimated cost that's listed here is straight salary cost estimated by TASB on their study. If you remember, I told you a minute ago in our budget we were holding about 1.3 because we've got a figure on top of that, any type of TRS benefits, all of that. So this fits well with our budget plan. I believe Mr. Daniel was at our workshop and had mentioned this as well, this compensation package, and was prepared to bring this to you in the June meeting.
TRS is increasing
TRS is increasing?
in September, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
There.
So I believe it's both on the district side
I think
and
it's
on the
8.9.
right. It's the district side and the employee side as well.
Yeah.
And that's been last year as well.
What are they going up to?
8.9.
Yes.
8.9?
Yep.
Wow. So
And so this is already figured in your budget projections.
that's correct. This was in the projections that we looked at when we looked at details on both our workshop presentations.
Any other questions for Liz? All right, I'm gonna recuse myself from action item 10C, but I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Matthew Slayton, motion to approve of no relation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Leon McDade with second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's 6-0, Eveline, with me recusing. Thank you.
It is time for our yearly purchase for our Chromebooks. As I've presented in the past, we were transitioning from a 3-grade and then a 4-grade, kind of flip-flopping every other year what we would refresh originally out of the 2017 bond. The intent was to go to a 6th and 9th grade refresh and purchase those out of M&O funds, but as our funding has changed recently, and Mr. can elaborate on specifically why they're coming out of these funds now, but some of that intent has changed. Well, the intent has not changed, but where the funding is coming from has changed. I'm only presenting right now to buy the 6th grade Chromebooks and not the 9th grade Chromebooks. In addition, in there is also figured growth at every other grade that we have 1-to-1. So full purchase for 6th grade, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, what we're growing within the grade. And that is only temporary. And as I previously stated, I applied for ECF grant funding for Chromebooks. This happened quite a while back, but we have not heard anything because our economically disadvantaged percentage is so low. So we're the last person on the totem pole to hear back if we're going to get approval or not. It's the same with all of our E-rate funding that we potentially get. This funding, it is leftover funding. If you'll remember, when COVID hit, we were able to buy hotspots and some additional state negotiated Chromebooks and things like that. Out of that ECF, or I guess it wasn't actually called ECF then, ESSER funding originally, there were funds left over that needed to be expended based on the original approval of funds that could be used for help, for relief. And so that's where the ECF grant funding came about. For that, I applied for 2,351 Chromebooks based on our enrollment at the time. You couldn't estimate based on whatever your enrollment would be when you got the Chromebooks. So that was based on numbers from the demographic report at the time I applied for middle school and high school. And of course, those numbers from then till now have grown. But should we get funding, it will be huge for us. And then we can look again, how does that change our cycles? You know, no matter what, it's a positive impact for us, but then we'll have to look, how does that impact a 6 versus 9? How does that exactly change up? Should we not get that funding, then I'm going to have to come back for approval for 9th grade Chromebooks, and that amount will be $180,558. So I just want to let you know, this right now is only for 6th grade and growth in those grades, because we have to do something now. We don't have the devices, but should we not get the ECF funding, I will have to come back for 9th grade devices. And timeline wise, what that does to us, the 9th grade will start with older Chromebooks that they've brought from 8th grade, but I have allowed within this purchase the growth beyond where they ended their 8th grade career and now starting their high school career. So that is built into this specific purchase.
So your goal is, and by the way, you do a great job with these grants and trying to keep us, you know, everybody one-to-one on the Chromebooks. In general, what is your goal for 3 years use of a Chromebook, 4 years? What is your goal?
So originally we were doing 4 years, and that's how this stagger originally was planned, this 4 grade, then a 3 grade, and rotating. What some of the problem has been as we've grown, we always use the Chromebooks that are coming off refresh in the elementaries, but we have a lot of elementaries now. And so we have more device needs. And so where we get a little bit of relief is we're getting the devices as a 2 grade cycle coming every year. You know, we would get 12th and we would get 8th grade, 8th grade and 12th grade devices back. Even though they're only used at 3 years at middle school, it allows us to kind of get a leg up on additional devices that we need to be replacing at these elementaries. So the elementaries are never actually getting new Chromebooks
So
unless they're
not part of the
new
refresh
construction.
program. It's just if they need individual computers, then they get individual computers.
Yeah, and
so the elementary schools are not part of refresh.
Not a part of what I'm buying yearly.
They get the hand-me-downs like their
Correct.
older brothers. Okay. Okay.
So, I mean, you can see even, there's so many options that you can do for one-to-one. There's some districts that do iPads, there's some that do MacBooks, there's some that do Surfaces. By far, Chromebooks are the cheapest.
Yeah. But it's not one-to-one in elementary.
So grades 3, 4, and 5 have one-to-one on cart, one-to-one. There's carts per classrooms, and then it's 6 Chromebooks per classroom lower. So pre-K, K, and 1, and 2. Yeah, sorry. So it's not full one-to-one, but it's a stretch just to get those, you know, what we have coming off a refresh, and new construction helps kind of supplement that as we're bringing stuff online, but we're getting the most absolute use we can off of any Chromebook purchase that we're making. We're kind of forced into needing additional devices that are somewhat newer as well in the elementary, since the state has mandated that we do all state mandated testing online now. Paper is not even an option. And there are certain versions that the Chromebooks support as far as their operating systems. We have to have so new of a version even to run that testing software. So even if we said we don't want Chromebooks tomorrow, we got to have some kind of solution, and it's got to comply with what state mandating testing says we have to have.
So is that another unfunded mandate?
Effectively.
You're saying when they take their state test, which is what, an individual student, once a year, twice a year?
Dr. Jordan can probably
once a year
fill you in more on what they're.
Third and fourth are taking math and reading once a year, and fifth grade and third grade, math, reading, and science once a year.
So we need to have a computer dedicated to them all year for that one test.
We have to have devices that are used specifically for that. I will tell you, historically, we've tried, and this is several years back, having general use carts. The problem with that, they don't use them. They will not use the carts, and there are also lesson plans that require certain technology to be taught now, certain technology to be used. When it is not their devices, there's too many logistics with checking out, and you almost have to have one-to-one in some regard, because if you have assignments that are due that have all these technology resources, it's an absolute nightmare from what I've been told from the teaching side, planning the cross-use and checkout, and then also how we have it deployed now. We can get in there and replace Chromebooks fast. I mean, we can do stuff. When you have general use scenarios, it's not my problem, not me personally, but if somebody is returning a cart or returning whatever it is, from what we have seen is a lot of those problems don't get reported, and then it's somebody else's problem. And there's just so many complications that come along with that.
You referenced, here it says paying for with bond funds, but you referenced leftover ESSER funds.
No. The leftover ESSER funds are what was used to create the ECF funding that we could apply for. For this specific purchase that we have to have now, it's 2017
so
bond,
the ECF
correct?
grant was funded through unused ESSER
Correct.
money?
Right, that's federal money that.
Who didn't take their ESSER money? Okay.
I was told that it looks better politically that this money gets spent. It looks better that all this money was allocated. They need it gone. And so that's why the ECF fund was created.
Any other questions for Greg?
What happens with the hand-me-downs in elementary school when they get new stuff? What do you do with the?
Recycle, because we can't, they stop receiving updates. If we're getting 8 years of, 7, 8 years of use off of a device, that's pretty incredible when it comes to a technology device.
Okay.
Entertain a motion to approve action item 10D is presented.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Wester, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Matthew Slayton, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Jeff, come on down.
So the first item I've got tonight, this is requesting approval not to exceed of $187,080 from the 22 bond funds. And this would be for our construction materials and testing services that we're required to perform on these projects. We've got a budget set aside, $663,000 specifically, which covers testing, permitting, platting, surveying, those types of activities. And this would be the first expenditure out of that particular amount. So typically they come in under budget. That's why I present it to you as a not to exceed. That's kind of how they present it to me, because it's on an as needed basis. So however many tests of a certain nature they provide, they just bill me that unit cost.
So this is what you explained to us during the budget workshop, that this was coming up?
Yes.
Okay.
This one, yes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10E as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Leanne Artho with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Let's just keep on going, Jeff.
Yep. 4 more to go.
Making us spend money.
No, I'm gonna give you money 3 times.
That's
So-
true. You are.
That's right. Yeah, you're leading
I'm gonna
up.
give you the
Yeah.
money first, then ask for it all back.
Yeah.
That last one kind of takes it all away.
We see the agenda. We see the order.
I don't set the
Yes,
order.
we do.
I just turn it in. So the next 3 items are all the same for different projects. So this is requesting that we approve final completion and proceed to our final change order on these projects. So the first one here is for completion of Argyle South Elementary School. So in our unused contingency funds on that project, we've got a balance of $190,265.26 that will return to the 2017 bond as savings.
Sounds great.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Entertain a motion to approve action 10F as presented. Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Mr. Westrom with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? There we go. All right. Man, the shenanigans tonight. Okay.
All right, next one, this is final completion and change order for the administration building. And there we've got a balance of $21,165.38 to return to 2017 bond as savings.
I entertain a motion to approve action item 10G as presented.
Yes.
Mr. Deffenbaugh, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Matthew Slayton, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Is this out of contingency money?
This is out of contingency money we had in the construction contracts.
Okay, and plus we came in under budget on these projects in general, right?
Yes,
Okay,
because we started them with the contingencies in the contract.
gotcha.
So this actually is reducing that construction cost by that amount.
Okay.
All right, the last one is final completion on the high school parking lot expansion.
The last good one.
The last good one, okay.
Yeah, the last good one.
And here we've got a balance of $105,741.14 remaining that we would turn to the 2017 bond.
I will entertain a motion to approve action item 10H as presented.
So,
Second.
Dr. McDade with a motion to approve. Mr. Western with the second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Jeff's walking away.
this is the painful one.
Just put it on his bulletproof.
Yes, the painful one.
Where's your shield?
Got her.
I'll just duck. All right, so tonight we're bringing you the proposed guaranteed maximum price for elementary school 4 that we've been working on for several months now, and have already approved 2 prior amendments to the contract to release some materials early and get ready to start some work early. So this one encompasses those first 2 amendments and everything else that we had not done prior to the total cost of that project. So we're presenting this to you at $43,169,370 from 22 bond funds. This is significantly over our bond budget,
Yes.
as we've discussed in some workshops. You can pull up that other file if you want. Primarily, inflation is the cause of this. We've had unprecedented increases beyond any level that we would have expected when we built the bond and came up with these budgets. For projects, we projected 12% for 1 year, 9% for the next 12 months, and then I believe 5% thereafter. So based on the timing of the project, you know, it would be a little bit of the 12%, a little bit of the 9%. I don't think we ever get to the 5% for this project, but that was not nearly enough. So this sheet, something that we looked at the workshop, I have updated it to reflect the GMP price we brought to you tonight. So the top is some of our capital projects with budgets, things that we've talked about doing, and we've looked at what we need to proceed with immediately, potentially using savings from the 2017 bond. So the top of it's really not what I'm here to talk about, but you can see at the top half we've got, after considering the capital projects in green, if we proceed with those, $1,789,000 still remaining of 2017 bond savings. So if you go to the bottom half, I've presented the GMP cost. Then the next line, we've got our bond construction budget of $34 million. So this is a deficit of $8.9 million on this project. But some things to consider and how we can close that gap would be using 2017 bond savings after we subtract these capital projects that we're looking at needing to proceed with now. Then we've still got, we've incorporated a lot of value engineering, value management, cost savings ideas. Last week we brought you $43,970,000 is what we were looking at, and we brought that down to the $43,169,000 this week. I believe there's easily another $200,000 worth of savings, if not more, that we're going to pull out of there as we work through some of the items on that list that we're still exploring and to be determined. Then we've also got interest on 22 bond funds that we're earning currently. That's $1,780,000 currently. And then we're also having to look at pulling some costs from potentially the middle school 2 design that we had included in the 22 bond. And that was to try to get a jump on that project, which is, I think, slated to open about 27 when we put this bond together. I don't think that's changed, but that's kind of how we have planned a way to close this gap. What I don't have on here is that we actually have about $1.2 million in offsite costs that were included for middle school 1, which was intended to be at the site that we're now building elementary 4. So some of that money actually needs to kind of roll over to that project, so that would offset some of this further. And I've starred the 22 bond interest because there's a probability that when they go through the arbitrage calculations and things that we will not have quite that much. And that's where some of the offsite costs that I don't show on this would take up some slack as well.
You said that's about 1.2 million?
We've got about 1.2 million that we allowed in that middle school project as offsite cost, which we should not have that kind of offsite cost on the site that we will build that at.
So what I hear you saying is we're going to be $9 million under budget despite all of our efforts. Over budget. But we can make up for that $9 million from other categories. And I've been in all the meetings, we've all been on the meetings. We understand this is out of your control. You know, this over budget. We've hit under budget with every project until now. And it's, I mean, some might call it collusion out there, but I won't blame that. But yeah, it's just the supply cost, everything else. This is out of your control. And we've tried to limit the savings. We got the savings of $1 million by value engineering.
Yes.
My concern is, and I appreciate these articulations here, Liz, I know you were heavily involved in this, that we're still even on our bond if we do this. But middle school 2 is just bleeping, and then elementary 5 is bleeping. So what we have to just be very, very aggressive now to make sure that those
it'll be even more critical to try to have.
We don't have any more
budget.
Reserves to pull from, right?
We don't.
So
a lot of districts have faced that already, and
everyone has.
now, and a lot of them have had to go back and put money in new bonds to get funds to complete projects from prior bonds
And
because
for-
of these
For the benefit of the public.
escalation.
Yeah.
We're kind of, this elementary school number 4 is basically the third time we've built this prototype.
It is.
right? And the first time we opened West, it was like $19 million.
No, like 25.
It was 22 or 23 million.
$23 million to open up this school that we're building today for $43 million.
Yes.
And then we opened up South just last year, and that was
27
million. And so when you were sitting, when the bond committee was sitting together going, hey, we got to build another elementary school, they knew it was going to cost a little more, and they come in and they estimate, hey, that school that we built for 22, 23 that later cost us 27, we're going to estimate that it's going to cost us 34 million.
That's right.
And in reality, it's going to cost us 43.
Yes.
And you've looked at these costs, and you've gone out and looked at what other school districts are paying price per square foot, and this is in line with what you're seeing in the market.
Absolutely. And if you want, we can go back to the presentation. There's some comparisons in there.
$226 a square foot.
Yeah, and Dr. Wright makes a good point. West was $226
$226
a square foot, and this school's about 420 a square foot.
This one's at 420, yes.
What remind me of the inflation factor that was used? Wasn't it 0.5% a month, or was it a full
It was
percent?
12%.
Typically,
It was 1%.
past, we would have
Right.
used
Now
0.5% a
we're at,
month.
like,
We went in
where-
at 1% a month for a year.
Right.
And then
Thinking we were being
9%
aggressive, right?
for the whole year, for the second year. I don't know what that is per month, 1.5. And then back to the 0.5% per year in year 3.
But that period of time, we thought it was going to be 1%, or we were being aggressive at 1%.
We thought we were.
Yeah.
The actual
But we
was
were
what?
not.
Yeah, we
Right.
weren't even close.
Oh, no, we were closer to 2.
Yeah.
The bond planning and growth committee and Huckabee and then felt we were being aggressive with the interest, so we'd have money in case something happened, but no one could forecast what happened.
Right.
Did any bond committees out there at any district estimate appropriately the inflation that we were
Of 40%.
faced with?
No.
There may be some, but they're probably going to be the larger districts where they're passing huge bonds, and it's not broken down of, this school is this
There are
cost and this school is this
multiple-
cost. So it's kind of hard to say,
Yeah.
There's multiple districts in the same situation.
but there's a lot of them that didn't.
I know how hard you've worked, and the
Yeah.
whole staff has
Thank
worked
you.
to beat that cost down, and the reality of it is we need ES4 open in 2024.
We do. I mean, it's hard not to proceed, even though, we don't have a final solution here.
Yeah.
But if we don't start, we definitely won't make it. This sheet is got some of the comparables that we were talking about, so you can see some of these other districts, and these are very recent projects. And we've got total square footage, cost per square foot. We even went ahead and looked at capacity and how many square foot per student, trying to see is our building efficient, or are we putting in a lot of square footage per student that we don't need? And you can see in looking at this, our numbers are toward the lower end of what you see. We have an outlier, kind of this community ISD project at $500 a square foot. I'd say that's really extreme. But you look at these others, 422, 451, 451, 384 on the very low end. They've built that school not 18 times, but probably 10. They've repeated that design for years. But we're in there at 419 a square foot. So we're toward the low end of these numbers that are out there.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about the other spreadsheet that was up, just so I'm clear? The green were the expenditures that we have either already done or committed to, and then the remaining lines underneath it are the ones that we're suggesting we can move those funds to help offset.
No, the capital projects list is just a list of expenditures that we can't take out of a regular operating budget. And so we just continually update that and track it. So the ones that were green would be the ones that we're saying we're going to need to do these. None of them have been done. So there was some 1-to-1 on there. I don't remember what all was on there, but some
The only two that
rekeying was
concerned
on
me
there.
that weren't green was an HVAC controls and phase 2 well replacement.
Correct.
Those two things cost us money long term if we don't address them.
Correct.
now. Okay, so if those,
The controls were for
west
I believe
only.
When we built that, we had the control system that we were using at the time.
Climate Tech.
And then we
Climate
changed the
Tech.
control system right after that. So since it was brand new, we've left that in west, and the plan was not to replace that for 4 or 5 more years at least. We needed to get the use out of the system that we
Was it,
So it's still working.
It's still working. We plan on using it. It's on our list and will remain on our list, but it's not something
So-
that we're asking to do at this time.
so that spreadsheet was capital projects, here's the ones we think we need to do in a timely manner, which I might even.
The green ones.
I might even make the well a green. But so that was my next question, because I saw the controls and it was at west. And if I remember correctly, it had a 5-year warranty.
I don't know that
Tommy
we had a
told me.
5-year warranty on it.
Well, I know we were having service calls day one. And we switched everywhere else to Enviromatics?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Can we go back to that, look at that slide, that one
Sure.
that he's talking about?
The one by itself, yes.
Yeah,
that one.
address this more, but they're continually working on where, what is being irrigated by the current well, what's being irrigated by,
Yes.
seawater, and what land we will not be irrigating anymore when we start construction on the stadium and the ISC, and how they could change that out.
Yeah.
And the smart system irrigation is something that could be put on for a lot less funds that would help us control. Right now, we have a lot of leaks. You don't necessarily know it until somebody's out there and sees the water standing. And that smart system irrigation is a more economical way to control that. It wouldn't, of course, divert the water that we're using to the well, but it would help control the costs that we're having right now.
Do we handle that in our own maintenance department, or are we farming it out?
With irrigation repair,
Irrigation.
it's in-house. And we are looking, as we do the stadium project and indoor activity center, what can we do to revise the system and the main line and put more of the athletic fields on that well, get them off that city water. And so that could be something that resolves itself significantly anyway with that project in the next few months versus the cost of an entire new well.
So Craig did commented that when we talked about the replacement of the current well, or the fix of the current well, right?
Mhm.
And this is
Or
actually.
it was adding it.
It was
This
actually
is
adding
a new
one,
well.
Yeah, no.
not
Okay.
replacing it, but it would be a
But
second
it
one
takes us off
added.
city
We've
water.
already paid for the fix of the current well.
Correct.
right?
Yeah, no, but this takes us off city water.
I wonder how much that would save us. I have to do some data.
Yeah, I could get you a note for your, I can tell you, we had a couple of, rough months on irrigation last year, so those totals are rather high, that we've been working on this year. Maintenance department's done quite a bit of work, but every time I find a leak out there, I'm afraid of seeing what that next month's bill is. So that smart system irrigation would essentially.
It helps
recognize
detect
that
the
and shut it
leaks,
off.
and
Right.
it'll shut the system off, and then it'll alert you, instead of running all night, and then someone comes in at 6 and sees it then.
I mean, for that one campus, we hit over 40,000 in 1 month last summer. And that's a significant portion of what our water budget is.
Last summer,
Last summer.
so the kids weren't even in the school.
It was irrigation problems is what it was.
So
It
this,
wasn't actual usage in the building.
so this would be 75,000 well spent.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, comparatively. What, the technology one-on-one,
That line item is the one that we just used for what is approved, or will use for what was approved.
Part of it, there was still a little bit remaining, so the line item 2017 bonds still had some funds for one-to-one, that we're utilizing first. This would be what we're thinking that we need in addition to that line item, above that.
so what does that do to the, okay, that's already then included, I see what you're doing, you've already reduced it off what we had. Okay, which is where you get the 1.789.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're projecting that 3.15 in total savings, and then those projects will capture 1.3.
So what we're doing there is we're spending more on technology than what the bond originally had in it.
That's correct. So we talked about moving that to the M&O budget, and as you know, the current years are a little bit more tighter, the upcoming years are going to be tighter. We cannot use 2022 bond funds on that because of the law change. we can consider requesting that in a future bond on a separate proposition. But our only choice right now for bond funds would be 2017.
Right. And this would use it all up, pretty much. Okay.
Any other questions for Greg, Liz, Jeff? I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10I as presented.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Wester, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Arthur, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Okay, this is, we went out for an RFP for our custodial services. We contract that out and have contracted that out for many, many years. Mr. Ledford and his team led that up, and we have been with our current company. It says 8 years on here, but I believe that was due to a name change, so we were with them many years before that, when they went by a different name before they got bought out. So in our current contract, we could extend it a year, but if you'll see there, he's listed out, we had 158 complaints in just this year alone. His department has worked with them, you know, they've tried to resolve issues, things have not gotten better, it just deteriorates a little bit more. And so we felt the need to go out for a request for proposal and look and see what additional services there might be out there, what additional vendors. And so we went through that process, and that's what we're bringing back to you as a request to award to National Management Resources at a little over 1.3 annual cost. I know we discussed this just briefly in our budget workshop because of the large dollar increase, and I believe one of the questions was what would the cost have been had we stayed under a current contract, because there would be some increases there. And I believe that current contract, we had to go doing a little bit of estimating, because the way we bid, or we requested for this new contract, was to include some of the additional cleaning that we have throughout the year in the contract. We're under our current existing contract that is outside of the contract, and we pay extra for that. And so we went and did a little bit of calculation, and we feel like that the current cost without any change, without an RFP, would have been just over 1.1 million, and so the increase is about 225,000. And we do bring that to you knowing that that is a large increase, but we do believe that it is needed for these services. And with the issues that we were having, without resolving some of those issues and working through that, it hasn't just been this year, it's been over time, that we're requesting that we award to National Management Resources.
So two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm assuming your calculations included bringing on the 6th grade center.
Yes, ma'am.
So it was apples to apples.
We tried, yes, I tried to go back and make I didn't take just this year's numbers. I took the escalation that we would see under the current contract, adding the 6th grade center, incorporating all of those additional services that we included in the current bill, and made that comparison.
Okay. And then, I just lost my second question, but it'll come back. Oh, comparing that to the cost of having an in-house maintenance?
I do not believe we've done a cost comparison of having it in-house. And Dr. Ott may be able to speak more to that as far as how long we've had it as contracted. I know it's been contracted well before I've been here, so it's well over 12 or 13 years.
It's been contracted as long as I've been in Argyle.
Okay.
We never had in-house in 23 years.
Who does in-house?
We have done some comparison of the cost, though.
Right, I don't know that we did.
One of the things you have to do, you have to either invest in, or you have to lease lots of equipment that we don't currently own.
That is correct.
Also, you have to
And I think it's kind of a hit or miss. Some districts have it in-house, some contract it out.
You may have already said this, but this is within what you were kind of projecting.
That's correct. We've taken these numbers and we've included it in that budget numbers that we presented to you in the workshops and discussed. Okay. It's just that it is an increase, but we feel like it's needed at this point, and would like to move to the National Management Resources.
Is it a multi-year agreement?
I believe that we have the choice to extend that each year.
At that rate or a
That rate or
predetermined
There,
increase?
no, there would be a rate increase each year, and I will have to get that for you because I don't believe that's on the information that we have right now.
But it was the same with ABM also.
It's in that document.
It was the same.
As far as an increase every year with ABM as well.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. We had that built in it. The highest it could go each year was 3%. It was based on the CPI indicator for the area, and there were years a while back where it didn't hit 3% each year, and so we didn't have quite that increase, but it was written in as a maxed out amount under the contract.
So we can try to do the same here.
Yes, and I can get you the information of what's written into this one.
Any other questions for Liz?
Do you know why we only got 8 formal bids back?
We actually, I believe, had more that we sent out, quite a few more vendors, but those were the only ones that we actually generated enough interest to send in.
Well, and I just didn't know if during their bid walk, if there were things they saw or.
Not that I know of, not that was expressed to us.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 10J as presented.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Western, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Deffenbaugh, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're actually we're gonna move to item 10L.
Okay, 10L, consider and approve the addition of one officer. We, went from 4.5 to 5 officers when we took the position at the high school that was half officer, half teacher, and made it a full teacher and a full officer. And so now we're asking to add an officer at the 6th grade center. The officer at 6th grade center will also serve DAP, which is there at 800 Eagle. So this is a request to add one officer from the 23-24 M&O budget.
The good thing is we're getting funding.
Oh, there's a ton of it.
Yeah.
Smart aleck. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10L as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Matthew Slayton, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hawksworth, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. And we need to read all pages. The secretary can.
I'll just go, I can read through them as I go over what
Yeah,
they're about.
we're gonna, yeah, I mean, we've gone through, we can highlight though.
All we need to
Okay.
do is do
Yeah.
the summaries, right?
Yeah.
Right, that's
yeah.
what I'm gonna work off of.
Yep.
I'm just gonna work off the summary.
We're not reading all 45 pages.
No,
It
no.
was 400 and something.
been done before.
It was
458,
458, I think.
This is just the local we're looking at.
CFB, yes, these are just local, the accounting inventories. CKE, the safety program and risk management, security personnel. CKEA, security personnel and commissioned peace officers. CLB, buildings, grounds, and equipment management and maintenance. CRF, insurance and annuities management, unemployment insurance. CVA, facilities, construction, and competitive bidding. CVB, facilities, construction, and competitive seal proposals. DEA, compensation and benefits, compensation plan. DEC, compensation and benefits, leaves and absences, and FD, admissions. And then FFI, student welfare, freedom from bullying. This one, we have a bullying protocol here. It says the minimum standards for bullying prevention completed by TEA on January 31, 23, include a requirement for policy provisions on reporting bullying incidents. Existing policy language addresses reporting by students and staff. The enclosed revisions are recommended to address the new minimum standards. So that's important to know that our bullying policy will be in compliance.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10M as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Arthur with second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. The time is 9:40 PM. We are adjourned.
You just give me